What's up, Rube? It's Little Big Robots back with a video, obviously. Today, I thought it'd be fun to discuss something, have a little thought experiment, as it were. If you like mecha stuff and robots and all that kind of fun stuff, please subscribe and comment if you can. But today, I thought it'd be fun to discuss something that I've thought a lot about as I'm kind of cleaning out and organizing my mecha with my annoying cat in the office. I started thinking, you know, what is realistic? It's kind of a funny thing to say because giant walking robots are not terribly realistic no matter what. If anything, but we're going to ignore this reality, but if anything, the reality is that tanks are going to continue to ouch kitty tanks are going to continue to make the most headway on the battlefield along with soldiers and our future. If you look at somewhere like Ukraine, which I don't take pleasure in necessarily watching the news about Ukraine, but I mean, it is interesting how the warfare is playing out. And if you take a look at it, go in the window, kitty. There's tanks, not necessarily giant tanks, I mean, some of them, but lots of infantry and lots of drones. I have a feeling it's the way it's going to go, but it is fun to think about how a giant walking robot might be used someday. Me personally, I tend to really enjoy thinking of them in the industrial sense, used for industrial things, working in dangerous areas, chemicals, stuff like that. That would be fun. And then if the technology really gets that great, then one day maybe in combat, stuff like that. But that's all. It's fun to fantasize either way. But this is one of my favorite little picture books. I love Sherman tanks, like a lot of people who grew up with fathers of my father's age who grew up and weren't quite boomers, but I guess it's boomers, born in 45 or whatever, 42, something like that. And he loved World War II, so I got into tanks. I love Sherman tanks like a lot of people. And this is a great little book because it shows some of these fantastic interiors. If you know me, or if you know my love of action figures and toys, one of my favorite things is a toy with an interior. And I wish they wouldn't have put this. I mean, I guess they had no option, but that crease right in the middle. And I want to order a poster of that. But anyway, I love toys with interiors. They're just, there's a realism and stuff to that. But also, I really like this sounds kind of dumb, but like the little, almost like an RV style feeling I get with a toy with an interior. It's weird, I know. Anyway, this shows a great example of how tight the quarters were in a Sherman tank. Now, Sherman tank was a medium tank. It wasn't necessarily a big tank. Watch your butt there, kitty. But even in big tanks, like modern tanks, they're really cramped in there. That's a modern cockpit. And now, granted, one day maybe that'll be more automated or whatever, but you can see how tight it is. Watch the movie Fury, although some people have an issue with some of the combat scenes. It's a fantastically entertaining movie, and it does a really, really good job, from what I understand, of showing the interior of a Sherman tank and how tight it is. So what I thought I'd do is I'm going to grab a couple examples of cockpits that I think show good and bad, using Joy Toy mechs, using my kitty, get down kitty, either you need to stay out or stay in. Checking out some Joy Toy mechs and checking out some other mechs that I have to kind of give an example of what I think. Where was the other one? Here's the other one. So these are three different mecha. Let's start with the smaller one first. It is a 160 scale. These are great mecha made by Forging Soul. You can find them on BBTS. Sorry, I had to let the kitten out, and then the kitten wants in, and then wants. Anyway, these are 160 scale, so this will give you an indication of how large or how small of a scale it is, I should say. Fantastic company. I love this toy line. I guess it's a toy line. They're stainless steel in some of them, or at least they're metal in some of them. Their joints are nice and tight, super posable and fun. But this is an example of what I would describe as a completely industrial-looking mech. This looks kind of like the mechs, similar design, the Hunchback design of like the Avatar mechs, and maybe the mechs in the Matrix where they're shooting all the little monsters coming down. Cool looking design, but you have this giant target right here. If you're going to be in bullet hell combat, why would you have this? If they had mechanized walking robot technology, they would surely have cameras and have the guy or girl protected in there, surrounded by tons and tons of armor like a tank. You wouldn't tanks don't have a glass, cover on them. This just looks cool, but but it really looks industrial. This is what you might use on a farm or something, if you ask me. But it still looks really cool. This is another example. This is the very first Joy Toy mecha I ever bought. These are 1/25th scale. Really, really cool. This is like a sniper guy. It's a fun design. I really fell in love with Joy Toy after this. Has a nice clacky design where everything's nice and tight. Move, kitty. But the cockpit is what I was talking about. It's really a glass canopy, just pure glass, and then the person goes in there, which again looks really cool. But if this is a non-frontline combat type mech, maybe we'd see this. I don't know, but I just think that's kind of funny. Again, if you had this kind of amazing technology, you're not going to have a big glass canopy. I think it's just again, that's something you would see on something that's not going in combat, but kind of interesting. This one is one of their new ones. Really, really fun. This was a great mech. I have reviews for all these on my channel, of course. This one I really liked. It has this little drone here, which is fun, but it has this a hatch on top to hang out of or to get in. I don't know if it has a rear hatch. I can't remember. I think, oh, it does, and it wouldn't open. This was a problem. If anybody knows us about this one, I couldn't get this open. I was afraid it was going to snap. So someone let me know if that comes open all the way easy. I think it comes up, even comes up like this, and then this comes forward. So you have this huge, like 4 different ways to get in the top. This back area, if it came open, that opens by itself, and this opens by itself. But again, in fantastic dual pilot configuration. That's what this particular one was known for, was this dual pilot thing. They just kind of extended the body out, but really, really fun. This has the wheels on the bottom. It's like kind of scope doggish. But if you look at it, why would you have this state-of-the-art combat vehicle with some that's just a target. You're already a target sitting there. It's kind of like the Mad Cat from BattleTech, was always a cool looking mech, but had just big glass in there. And I just think that's somebody, a military professional, let me know in the comments if that's an issue or not. But I think that's definitely a problem. It looks really fantastic. You can see the pilots in there and everything to give you an idea of the pilot size. These are 1/25th. Yes, I've got to put all my pilots back in their mechs. I've been cleaning them to do just that. So that's about the size. You can get a good indication. Okay, kitty. No one wants to see your butt. You get a good indication of that. Ooh, is her leg coming off? What is that? Oh, that's the thing there. Of the size, 1/25th scale. So this is a pretty good scale. So I've got some different scales to show you. Let me get a different kind here. Let me move these guys out of the way so my cat doesn't knock them everywhere. So these are getting closer to what I think is an ideal cockpit scenario. Okay, you get down now. Yeah, you. 2 different model kits, 2 different lines. This is Hexagear. Hexagear is 1/25th. Somebody correct me again. I believe 1/25th scale, 1/24. I think these are 1/24. So basically the same scale as Joy Toy 1/25s. It's definitely a model kit. It's meant to be pulled apart, put back together, customized, so it's not a toy necessarily like the Joy Toys. But this is one of my absolute favorite cockpit designs. It does this cool thing where it just lifts up. The head of the mech is on the front of the control thingy there, so there's the person sitting there. It's very Scope Dog, if you know what Scope Dog is. I don't have it with me, but actually here it is. Here's our little Scope Dog. This is the little kit that I did not like. I mean, I like the kit, but I don't like it for the price. But that's a Scope Dog that basically comes up and the person sits inside there, so that gives you an idea the person's about that big. Again, a interesting cockpit design, but way too weak, I think. And so this, I think, feels a bit more quote-unquote realistic to me. The sides are nice and thick. The person sits in there, but is pretty protected from the armor and stuff around them, which is, of course, the idea. I also like... Ouch! Stupid cat. She knows when I'm not paying attention to her. I like that it has these side skirts and it's protected, and it's not a giant mech. It also has these ridiculously big feet, because these ridiculously big feet are hovercraft type feet. And that kind of makes some sense if you're going to have a mech that weighs, 40 tons and it's putting all of its pressure onto fine little points. You need to have those legs, those feet spread out. Kitty, get out of here. I swear to God. But that cockpit design has always been one of my favorites. I don't know if it's the absolute best. I know it's not my absolute favorite. I don't know if it's the absolute best design, but I like that kind of design where it is not huge. It's not Gundam size, which is, otherworldly and alien in its design. But this is something you could actually see happening in a lot of ways. So let's scoot that to the side. This is the brilliant 1/48 scale. Stop, kitty. Hold on a sec. So she has a habit of climbing up my leg that her fosters taught her, which is naughty. It hurts. I keep her claws trimmed, but still. Anyway, this is a 1/48 scale main AM. It's basically called a Warrior at the Battle at the Border or something. I can't remember. I always forget this one. Stupid big long name. Just call your anime something like Killer Robots. Whatever. But this is a fantastic kit. Yes, it looks a bit like a space chicken. That's understandable. But this has a really interesting cockpit. This is 1/48 scale, where this is 1/25. So person here is like that last one I showed you. This one is much smaller. But it has this really interesting cockpit here. See if I can grab it. There we go. So, oh no, oh Lord. So you're going to see there, let me actually pull the backpack off. So you can see there, on my camera I can't see it really well, you can see that more. The person sits in the back. Now what's really interesting, it has this little tail thingy here that pops up. And we'll actually lift them up. So the bot can bend down, grab the person, and lift them up, which is, I think that's a bit silly, but it would work. I think it probably would work pretty well. But you can see where is that pilot sitting? He or she is sitting in the back of the mech, letting all this stuff take the damage. The head can be blown off, which is always funny that mechs have heads, why, but you can see it without a head, it still looks cool. Head could be, all this could be protected. Similar to a tank, you're going to be sitting a little bit more. Some of you are going to be sitting a little bit more in the back. You want to put yourself behind where you're going to be fighting the people, and the bullets are going to be coming in and stuff, and the swords or whatever they're using, and the person is pretty well protected back here in the back. I think that's a really, really cool design as well. So this is a design that I am absolutely a fan of. Everybody knows how much I love this toy, this model kit. This is a 30 minutes missions kit. They're about $12, $13. Has this little drone. But what's great about this guy is not only is it kind of scale agnostic, I think quite realistic in its design, in how chunky it is, how cheap it might be to build, blah, blah, blah. You can use this with a lot of different scales because it's just a little robot looking guy, but you can do something like this, which I thought was great. I think that about works. That is just a little pilot from Mega Constructs, but you can see he could almost squat in there and be like in an egg of protection, thick armor. It can be fed off his a Neuralink thing, which they already have those now. If you noticed, a couple companies are trying to do Neuralink stuff where people can connect directly to a piece of machinery. They've had similar stuff for a while, but it's starting to really come to fruition, I think. And I think this one feels really like a proper size. The person's about as tall as a leg, can kind of squat in there and use this as like an infantry backup type thing, as a scout, something like that, that's protected but not invulnerable. And then you probably know this one as well if you know my favorites. This is my favorite of my Joy Toy mechs, which is a bit controversial even for me. It doesn't have it doesn't have all the amazing giant big guns. I mean, you can put those on there or whatever. It doesn't have clacky arms where it goes click, 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 click. They're held together by tension, which can loosen up over time and is a little bit annoying. All this armor and stuff comes off. So other than that, the waist can get a little bit loose. But what I like about this mech so much is its design. It looks like a linebacker. It's cheaper. They're about 50 to 60 bucks. It's missing a piece. But this is my favorite. So this is, to me, I think probably the most realistic of the cockpits I have. They are 1/25, so this guy goes in here, so that gives you an idea of the size. So I think an appropriate size, you know, a good, what, 20 feet tall, 15 feet tall, whatever it is, but not overwhelming. What they really did great with this one, though, is you can take the seat out, and it gives you an idea of how the seat would work. So you put your little 1/25th person right here, like that, and they kind of like that. Now, what I like about that is it's kind of an interesting design. You know, maybe one day they would actually have a standing, sitting, you know, you're not sitting there driving it like, you know, like a car or something, or a ship, or I should say a plane or something. You're driving it with like a Neuralink, and then you've got this, you know, maybe you can move in this position, you know, and the bot responds to you or whatever. But with that, when you take it out, it also fits 1/18 scale, and you can see the details in there. This is so fantastic. The armor, I think, with the armor off, it's definitely thinner. It's less protection, but with the armor around it, you can see how that would protect it while still keeping it lighter. The arms could use a little more armor, but again, that's the arm. It's not the main body of it. You can see the back is less armored because the back doesn't need to be as armored. And I just think this is probably, to me, a more realistic, quote-unquote, idea of what a mech might look like. You close it up, you can see little screens in there and stuff they would have. If you're going to have a walking bipedal type thing, I don't think you're going to have, like, let's see here, like a typical Gundam, where this is what, how tall is a Gundam? 70, 60, I don't know, I can't remember. But the pilot is, you know, yay big and fits inside there. And pilot's this giant. I mean, if you had this kind of ability to create something so large that is so heavy that can actually move, and you know, of course, a lot of them are out in space and whatever with my mecha cat here. What I like about the old RX-78 too is it does have wider feet, so that's kind of cool. It would distribute the weight, but this is, I think, one of the least quote-unquote realistic options. Hold on a second. You see what I have to deal with all the time. One of the least realistic options of a cockpit or of a pilot or whatever that we have, but of course it's one of the coolest. You know, it's the most fun. It's kind of like Warhammer. It's completely unrealistic, but it's just silly fun. But to me, if I'm going to put my money on a cockpit or a design that I think we might see, or I would think would be cool, would be something like this: 15 feet tall, whatever feet tall, a simple cockpit like that with sloped armor to deflect stuff, and armor that you could remove and replace easily, and the pilot could stand up or sit or whatever and be kind of encased in an egg. I just absolutely love that design. This gets so little credit in the Joy Toy Mecha community. It really does. Everybody hates this one. I see why, because the joints can loosen up or whatever time, but that's easy to fix, and it's also cheaper. You can get these for $55 stuff. I've seen them for as low as 50 bucks. Just a great design, and I think with this cool little seat allowing you to put a 1/18s in there as well, they gave you so much flexibility and realism in a lot of ways in these cool little mechs. I'm thinking of buying one or two more of these just to have, maybe customize one, do one for photography or whatever, you know. So super cool. Anyway, that's just kind of a fun little long video I had to talk about different ways that a pilot might pop into a mech. Let me know what you think. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.